had it and then immediately was taken away.
Happiness isn't what I'm actually seeking. It's peace.
With the gifts that I've been given, am I living a life that I want to create?
Really think about who they are, what they value. And again, obviously, this is what you're saying, this is what you coach. Help people with is probably what I should say. I'm sure your coaching is so intertwined and intentional. But you impact people in a way that it can't help but impact who they are all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I want to call out too. So you're not just helping them become better leaders, whatever role they have, CEOs, whatever it may be. Because oftentimes executives kind of lose their sense of humanship whenever they get into leadership. And that's the thing that gives me hope is that I think executives as a whole need more of you, need more of what you're doing, and need more to call out like what brought you here. And sometimes it's a matter of I had somebody who promised me roles. I had somebody who paved the path for me or whatever the thing is, but they didn't do the work that you did to really find out who you are. Because again, Eric Thomas talks about this quote, and it's really something meaningful for me, but being very, very intentional, because your talent can take you places that your character can't keep you. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, I know my gifts. I know the talents, not that skills and talents can't be improved, right? But there's some natural things. But then my character, the who I am, that is what's going to keep me into these places and see these opportunities that's going to help me break through the imposter syndrome and self-limiting beliefs and all these things. And so it's like, well, we're always in control of our own character and our ability, desire to, an effort to work. And that's really what your story, and again, kind of paralleling some of my story and your story, it's very different. But it's at the root of it. It's understanding yourself, how you want to impact the world. Because you were still those things while you were, on the track. You were having fun with it. You were making progress all the time, staying true to who you are, and you felt free. And now you get to help other people do that. And that's again, one of the greatest gifts I think that we could ever offer each other is making them feel seen for who they are, not just how much they've achieved and how much they've overcome. Yeah. And I do have another question around bobsled. Yeah. Because I get it. There's some running. But I'm so intrigued. I'm terrified of the idea of bobsled. But to think like, you know what, like fun and freedom, I'm going to run on the track in the beautiful, warm, sunny weather of summer. And then I'm also going to do one of the most intense, what perceives, right? I watch people all this. I've watched it every year. I love the Olympics. And I'm thinking, besides luge or skeleton, it's the most terrifying thing that I could ever imagine doing. And now I'm just even more curious about what led you from, what was the timing of that? And how did you then carry yourself into that arena? I'm just so intrigued by that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny as we talk about, and you said something that like struck a chord to me. And I say this a lot. People always ask me why I don't say that I'm disciplined. I am extremely disciplined. Like, I'm so disciplined that I don't even think about having discipline. And the way that I get there is I've been so married to the reflection of myself and understanding what I value that I've been able to look at the authenticity that I've had in my lifetime, the progression that I've always been seeking for my lifetime to date at 37, the fun and the adventure that I've gotten the opportunity to either do or create for myself. And because I live all of those things, I have no other choice but to be consistent and disciplined. Because it's an element of everything that I go into. That was track and field, and that ended up being bobsled. And so to your, how did you get here? Where did bobsled come from? Once again, sidetracked. And it's not ironic that I named why I named leadership coaching Sidetrack Path, because I've lived a life of being sidetracked and my brain's kind of sidetracked sometimes. So yeah, I wholeheartedly got there. There was a Next Olympic Hopeful TV show that bobsled was running to try to bring in recruiting talent. And I had a friend that was a decathlete, so 10 different disciplines for track and field. I was a heptathlete, like I said before, 7 different disciplines. We had competed in Canada together for Team USA and just became like really close, cool people. And he had ended up in 2017, 2018 going into bobsled. And we still stayed in touch, still stayed in contact. I saw this Next Olympic Hopeful thing, and I was like, Evan, why does bobsled think you could just pull an Olympian? Like, why do they think they could just pull someone off the street and make them an Olympian? Like, that's so degrading to people trying to climb this totem pole to get to the Olympics. And he was like, I don't know about that, but I think you should try it. He was like, I made the transition over and like, I really think that you should like consider it. It's speed, it's power. That's exactly the type of heptathlete that you were. I think that like you would be great for it. I straight up told him, I'm like, Evan, I am from Los Angeles, California, and like really concrete jungle, Los Angeles, California. My idea of a snowflake was we folded a white piece of paper in like the 3rd grade and we cut them all out on the way that we wanted to cut them out. And we hung them from the ceiling in our classroom and they all looked different. Yeah. That was my only experience of snow. Yeah. So I was like, Evan, I don't like being cold, but like, good luck. And he was like, nah, we'll come back to this. And I was like, whatever. I was like, I don't know why they think they could just make Olympians. Like, no. So it kind of went on. I was competing that summer. I had ended up making a U.S. team that summer for track and field. I ended up literally, this is like probably a horrible experience to say out loud, but I competed at U.S. championships. You have to be top 12 to be invited to represent the United States of America in the heptathlon. I was 13th. And the 12th place person was getting married that year. And so she had opted out of it. Also, my collegiate head coach was going to be the head coach of the U.S. team that summer. So this girl had dropped out. I moved to 12th. I'm on the training table after the 800. My collegiate coach comes up, gives me this golden ticket saying that I made a team and I'm going to Germany and I'm doing all this stuff. Only to 15 minutes later, come back to me, tell me that the girl is changing her mind, that she's going to compete. And so he had to basically take that ticket from me. That was the first official, like, at USA's team that I had made. And so for me, I was like I had climbed everything to get to this point. And I had it, and then immediately it was taken away. And I was like, well, this is stupid. So I was kind of sad. I was kind of sad for a couple weeks. And Evan, whose mom had also passed away, I want to say earlier that year in 2017 or 16, maybe 17. I don't recall exactly, but he reached out to me just to kind of see how I was doing. And I told him, I'm like, oh, this is rough. He was like, I really think you should try bobsled. And I was like, sure, like maybe I'll think about it. He was like, well, too late. I already sent your information to the coach. So he's going to call you after I get off the phone with you and we're going to see where this lands. So Evan signed me up. That's how I got into bobsled. A recruiting coach called me. I decided to do this Next Olympic Hopeful TV show thing. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was 135 pounds as a heptathlete. When I actually went into bobsled full time, I think my heaviest, I was at 177, which is like a huge weight swing.
Yeah. As
I'm 5'9", so like that's a lot of mass to put on. And that's how I got there. So the path yet again was not a path that I traditionally taken where I was like, oh, yay, bobsled. Nope. Someone was like, I think you'd be great for this. And so I'm just going to sign you up and see what happens. And then I stayed with it for 4 years later. And I met some of my best friends. I learned so much about myself going from a big fish in a small pond as a bobsled or as a track and field athlete, and then learning how to be a different athlete. Like I was a totally different athlete from track and field to bobsled. And I needed to, have a huge ego death because I knew how to move my body fast. I was extremely disciplined where anything on a chart or a plan from my coach, like I was going to execute it. I was going to be the first person that showed up for it. I was going to be the last person that left. Like I cross T's and dot I's. Probably why I ended up as a project manager. But like, if it's on there, I'm doing it. I will not fail because I didn't do everything possible. And I've just taken that into everything that I do. Insert value of progression. So I just showed up and I tried every single day for bobsled. And I was fortunate where I got the opportunity to compete and even do a women's 4-man race, which says it in itself. 4 women weren't allowed to do the 4-man bobsled discipline that everyone sees and everyone looks at during when you were like, I've seen it all. Typically people see the 4-man and they're like, oh, this sport's great. Bobsled's so fast. You see 4 giant male humans hopping into basically NASCAR on ice. It's the best thing. Women weren't afforded that opportunity. Until this past Olympic Games for winter, women actually only had 1 medal potential, and that was 2 women. And so they had to fight and vie to have the same opportunity as the men, where men had the option of medaling in 2-man. They also had the option of medaling in 4-man. So we were like kind of on a prove it wrong, like women can do this. And so we had the opportunity to compete at World Cup races as a 4-woman crew. And it showed not just myself that I could like go into this sport and learn how to do something, but it showed other people and other women that like no matter what path you think you might be on or what trajectory someone is going to tell you you need to do, like you can always make it sidetracked and you can always make it impactful in a way where there were so many young women that were at the end of that finish line when we got down there, and I will never forget that. And I'm going to try to say this without like getting emotional and crying, but I went back to what I wanted to achieve as like being one of the most inspirational women on the face of the planet and working for Barbie. And I was like, these people think that I'm a Barbie, to the point where I think a kid actually in a bathroom was like, she's like my Barbie when I was there, which was a crazy thing that I'm recalling right now. But yeah, bobsled gave me that opportunity to live that out in real life and to continue to live that out in real life. And so I believed in the speed and the power that I had. I also had to really learn the hard way. When you're a high achiever, you have to let go of the person that you were in order to be the person that you want to become, back to your becoming. And I was great as a track and field athlete. I also wanted to be great as a bobsled athlete. And I think to my own detriment, if I'm being transparent, I needed to keep that identity of like being good enough as a track athlete almost too long into my bobsled career, where if I could go back and do it over, I wish that I would have had like a safe grounding space to just kind of let the armor down and really show up the athlete and the person that I could have been to my fullest in bobsled. And I don't know if my path would have changed. I'm not going to rewrite the story any differently, but yeah, that's how I got there.
Yeah. Well, that's, I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate the vulnerability to share that story about your mom. And, and obviously you talk about helping people kind of on the mental health, their mental health and their wellness. And one thing that I really hear you say is something that I've clung on to myself that I still hold tightly is grief and this thought of moving on, this natural tendency of if we don't consistently remind ourselves of the people that we've lost, then we have the guilt and shame of forgetting and not thinking of as often and so on and so forth. And one of the things that you've said that really I want to call attention to, because it's this something, again, like I said, that's really powerful for me, but it's this, and I was introduced to it by someone else who had gone through some really just trauma that I can't even relate to. But she said, I've stopped trying to move on and I've learned how to move forward with. and honoring your mom in the way that you did by helping her still impact your path. And you're running while you may not be on track, but it's using your gifts is how I'm internalizing. Maybe also one of the ways that your mom meant to run was using your gifts until you can't anymore. And that's what I see in you. And that's what I feel like you're doing in the most powerful and authentic way. And it moved me. So that's why I wanted to call it out to you. And I'm not saying, I don't want to add any names or anything to your, to kind of your path, but it just, how it resonated with me. I just wanted to honor that and share that back with you.
No, well, I appreciate that. And I think you're nail on the head with that, where, there's been so many sidetracked paths on this path for me, to the point where even like you called it in, where, yeah, my mom wrote me this letter and it was like, don't stop running until like it's completely taken away from you. Also at the end of that letter was learn how to love yourself so others can love you. And so because failure wasn't an option for me. So I had an armor that allowed me to be great. I knew it like I knew my first name. And the older I got and the higher I climbed the totem pole of success, the more that I realized the capacity of empathy that I have in spaces and places, how I treated my teammates, how I learned to treat myself, and how I'm currently still learning to treat myself. Yeah. The biggest accomplishment that I will say in the path that I've had in my athletic career was being able to balance being selfless and selfish at the same time. And sometimes it pulled me into the direction where I was a little too selfless, and then things didn't always pan into my favor. A little bit of people pleasing, a little bit of like validation, see me. And then there was the other side of it where like I could armor up and accomplish anything. That's why I think I work so well with executive leaders, especially when they feel like they are just at the top of their totem pole, their Olympic Games. Yeah. I'm like, I know it. I know it like I know my first name. The pressure of 100,000 people in a crowd, like a gun is going to go off, and that's going to dictate how you respond and how you react immediately. What are you going to do? And so I like that I'm capable of relating to people in that sense. And it's I know it. I know high performance and how I've identified high performance, but I get the opportunity to help someone else figure that out, to help someone else go on the path of, they get the opportunity to choose how they want to reflect on being selfless and selfish, and decide where they want to go with that based on what they value. Like, is your selfishness coming from your need of progression? Because I valued progression, sometimes I needed to be a little more selfish in situations. So because I've looked at what I have rooted for myself, which is what do I value? How does what I value, how does it show up in who I am? Absolutely. The gifts that I've been given, I say this all the time too as my self-quote, it's, with the gifts that I've been given, am I living a life that I want to create? And I can 100% in all honesty say I am. And I am because I'm willing to let those gifts evolve. I've had to look at the difference between self-grace and self-compassion. When you are a high achiever, high progressing person, you are extremely hard on yourself. Shame will fester in silence. And there are more times than not that people will believe I have sat and cried in a corner and like rocked myself in like, what am I doing? How did I get here? And how do I get out of here? And so I get the opportunity to talk about those pieces of the path that people don't. I like to call it the basement of the podium. So like, podium is a staircase. And everyone sees that person that's on that first, second, third place podium. You're celebrated, confetti's blowing everywhere, medals are being handed out. Like, everything that you have built your life to be in that moment is being celebrated. People have no idea the 364 days below that staircase in the basement what it took. The 2 suitcases that you had to live out of in random countries where you don't even know how to speak the language. The heartbreak and the relationships that needed to end. The becoming of yourself that like you don't even know because half your life has been spent chasing progression and a flag that you didn't even know you were going to be chasing. The deaths, the everything that has made you who you are, those parts, that basement light doesn't really come on often unless you're willing to shine the light in that basement either yourself or you're willing to allow people to come into that basement with you. And not because they need to change it or rearrange that basement by any means. I say that because the basement will always be the foundation of how you stand. And you said it perfectly, where that story moves with you. Everything that I've experienced, every risk that I've taken, every failure that I've had, every tear that I have shed in the real true race to performance for myself, I've had to take all of that with who I am today, August 9th, 2025 at 12:04 p.m. And I'm going to take it into 12:05 and 12:06 and 12:07. And when I learned, which was recently, that self-compassion is where that's built. When you can take all of the elements of your story and really set your tone of what action do you want to take next with the understanding and the reflection of this. And that's what I get to do with people. And I do it with myself. So it's, I will never ask someone to do something that I haven't done.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, in the coming along with them, I think is that energy that you're referencing in the sense of not you're above them. So here's a tool. It's a matter of you're doing it and did it and learning how to do it differently every time. And that's the most empowering thing is when you can talk to people and not at people. Mm-hmm. And I think honestly, anybody, again, just the few times I've had the chance to talk to you, that's what it feels like is I'm having a conversation with someone, and it's powerful. And, obviously connection and certainty and presence in space is obviously super important to both of us. And, one of the things that you said, I just kind of want to lean in on one more thing here related to kind of what you just said. And I was listening to somebody the other day, and he had talked about it's a monk that's kind of really popular right now on socials and different things. And he said he's not pursuing, the interviewer asked him if he's happy. And he said, at times. And the interviewer said, well, tell me more about that. He said, I'm not pursuing happiness. Happiness isn't what I'm actually seeking. It's peace. Peace is something that we get to have, that we get to decide, that we get to control, that really then is the foundational building block to so many other things. And Colbert and Anderson Cooper, there's also another short clip of them too, where Anderson Cooper looked at Colbert and said, I just read recently that you actually are grateful for everything, including the horrific things that have happened in your life. And he's almost in tears. I don't know all of Anderson Cooper's story, but I know there's a lot of tragedy and loss. And he looked at him and said, do you actually believe that? And Colbert's response brings me peace, to where he said, yes, because those moments to when I was broken and devastated made me more empathetic and allowed me to show up with empathy for the people in my life, to where I was able to relate to them and add more value and connection to them. Because I had gone through things, he found gratitude in those things now because of how he was able to relate to others. Mm-hmm. And when you can look back and you're not grateful that the things happened, right? But how it impacted you as a person is really more what I find gratitude in the moment. And I'm kind of anchored in these 3 thoughts that kind of mean the same thing, but hit people in different ways, of which I see a little bit of that in all of your story too. So I'm kind of wanting to share it, but also to hear your thoughts on it. So there's not a single thing meant for me that'll pass me by, which is peace for me. I'm being prepared for what has been prepared for me, like the divine nature of it. And then the Latin phrase amor fati, which is lover of one's fate. So those three things have really anchored me into pursuing peace and finding peace and being more present, because those are, even though there's a past, there's a presence and a future, there's always those three things. Those three things bring me right back to the present. Mm-hmm. And that's what's helped me find my peace. Because I fully believe in those three things. It allows me to look towards the world with hope and optimism and gratitude and love and empathy and compassion and everything that I hope to offer to everybody else. And it's rooted in peace. It's not joy. It's not success. It's not fulfillment. It's not money. And we hear this all the time, which I think is really powerful too, is we hear the things that, Jim Carrey even said, I hope everybody accomplishes everything they've always said they've wanted to, so they realize that that's not actually where fulfillment is. Mm-hmm. Fulfillment is in exactly the thing that you've been sharing with us today. And fulfillment for me, it's not for everybody, right? Everybody gets to own theirs, is peace and presence and connection with people that I get to meet, I get to have in my life, the people that I love, the people that I'm like authentically grateful for, because I don't know how many more moments I'm going to have with them. Mm-hmm. But I know how I'm going to treat the moments that I do have. So I wanted to share that with you, and obviously any insights, I'd be better for listening to anything about you. So as those three things kind of come true to my heart as you speak about your journey.
Yeah, I mean, and I've told you this before, so this is not just for camera's sake, but you have such a gift of just space and how you give space to people to show up how they want to show up and how you show up in it. And I think that you create a space of peace for people to do and be who they are. And it is very much apparent in how you speak, the intentionality of the questions, like how and why who you are wholeheartedly. And I want to thank you for that, because I've learned in my career, and I have been fortunate where I've had it, but it's not something that everyone gets exposure to. Like to really, truly be in a space that's created for someone that really just wants you to be your best. Like there is no transaction required. Everyone doesn't get the opportunity in their lifetime to experience that. And it actually it makes me so sad. Like it emotionally triggers me in the saddest way, because I spent my life transactional. Like everything that I did was exchange for a flag or for an accolade or for something. And to be able to sit in space where you get to just disarm and be and show up and like let that live I will never take it for granted. So I appreciate you sharing that very much so. And I think we mirror very similar sentiments in threes. I actually want to know some like idea and some like statistics on threes, and threes and fives for me are usually it. But you said something about joy and happiness, and it's funny because how I perceive joy and how I work with it in my life is joy is something to fight for. I believe that happiness is temporary and joy is eternal. And so for me, like joy and fun are kind of my like interchange synonyms for my value. But joy is something that you fight for. And so every single interaction that I have for someone, I don't care if it's an unhoused person on the corner and I'm walking past them, like I try to smile with joy, because like I might be the only instance of joy that person has an interaction with for the day or period. And I intentionally try to find moments of joy and sparkles of life, and that's why I have a match as a necklace. Like I try to find the little sparkles and glimmers of the things that set people's soul on fire and just kind of roll with it, because that's what makes me happy. So yes, finding elements of joy. The second one you said, I mirror as well. I say it in my TIFF terms of I attract what I'm ready for. And so in my life, I have been so much of a giver. Like I would give someone the shirt on my back if I needed to. And I would do it with like, it wasn't a transaction. Like I really wholeheartedly wouldn't expect anything back. Yeah. And I realized that I knew how to be the most gracious giver. And maybe this might be something that it actually resonates a lot with my women clients. Not that a male cannot have the same element of gracious giving, but for women, this tends to speak a little more volume. I'm so much of a gracious giver that I never really took time to learn how to be a gracious receiver. And so I've been in this space, I would say over the past 2 years, where like I'm consciously receiving, because you attract what you're ready for. And so for me to know that like I've spent a lifetime giving, I'm great at it, really great, but I'm not so good at like letting people help me or like letting my armor down so that way I can be a better person and leader in life and all of the things that I value as progression. And so, yeah, you attract what you're ready for. And, yeah, for me, that third one is really like, I used to say, if it's not this, it's going to be something better. And so I lived in this mind of, I do this all the time. Even still, I'm learning to undo it. I needed to be a professional athlete, or I needed to be a professional corporate life living person. I couldn't do both. It was this or something better. And in the past 2 weeks in my own self-reflection and journaling, I've learned that it can be this and something better. And I think that is where I get the most hope in how I show up for myself and for people. But yeah, I think those are my three like grounding kind of self check-ins is, yes, it can be this life as this executive coach, and you can still train, you can still do all these things, and you also can have what's better and what's next. And so yeah
that's such a more, again, the eloquence of what you say, it's your thoughts and kind of how you turn those into actionable things. Because truthfully, most of the time that I'm speaking and coaching and talking, most of it's women as well. And women have this unique gift and ability to kind of this paradoxical nature of being two things in their brains at the same time, where men are typically, they're great at separation, to where they don't have a sense of the giving and receiving as much, but trying to do both at the same time. Women are predominantly, there's a story that I'll just share really quick, just because I think it's really powerful and it's honoring. So like flamingos, I'm sure we all know, like, so flamingos, right? So they eat what they eat, and they turn pink because of the food they eat and all the things, right? And but if you ever look out at a flock, I think is what they're called. There may be some more technical terms, so I apologize for everybody else who actually knows flamingos more than I do. But if you find the most do you know a lot of, are they flocks?
They're flocks.
Okay. So I'm going to, although you're probably going to correct me if this is wrong, so I'm okay with that too. But the thing that I read, it just really kind of made me think about mothers and the giving, and to hopefully breathe some life into the selfless, selfish that you leaned into earlier. But the most pale flamingos are the females, because they want everyone else in the flock to have more of the food and their babies to have the food. So they sacrifice themselves so that the babies can have the food. And it just really, it's often seen a lot and heard a lot. And it's just kind of, I wanted to kind of honor that, because I know that is something, but it's really hard for women who are in this space of personal development and growth and career and all these other things to balance the selfless and selfish. So I'm really glad that you touched on that, because I think that's something really powerful, is those two things can be true. Like you said, you can be selfish, but in a way that is also allowing you to be selfless. Because like it's the old analogy of you can't pour from an empty cup, but like taking care of yourself allows you to show up in a more meaningful way for other people as well. And so just breathing life into that. And I don't know who's listening. I know there's lots of them that are. They may be watching as well. And maybe when we've said it in the past, it didn't matter. But maybe just when Tiffany just said it, it mattered, because me saying it means something totally different than you. You have more credibility. You relate. The way that you say it is just so powerful. So I wanted to call out to that too. I know it was very earlier on in our chat, but it just was really powerful, just because I think a lot of women specifically struggle with those two places. because you're kind of in that, when do I have time to take care of myself? But you also take a lot of pride in taking care of others. So there's this push and pull on how much you have to give to yourself. And sometimes it's recognizing that those two things can be true. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, so Tiffany, again, I don't want to end our chat without having people know how they can connect, learn from you, whatever it is. Even her social media is fun. I saw the other day, you posted a picture and it said TP and a TP. So if you want some humor, some fun, some freedom, some progress, somebody showing up with you, if you want some authenticity, find a way, again, to connect. Tiffany is a wonderful person. And again, I'm grateful that I get to connect with you. This is not a transaction. This is something that fits into my 3 buckets that I just mentioned earlier of surrounding ourselves with great people, meaningful, intentional people, and connecting in any way that we possibly can, and trusting that, like we've said, everything that we've done up to this point has led us to this point. And so I want you to kind of be able, if you can, kind of share how people can connect with you if they want to, if they actually want to do some like life-changing work and work with you as well. Kind of how can they do that? How can they connect with you, and how can they be impacted by who you are and what you do?
So how people can get connected with me, they can visit sidetrackpath.com, and you can write me on Instagram. @TiffyP is my personal. @sidetrackedpath is my Instagram. I'm one of those people where I will respond back to you. Like, I genuinely,
she does.
I will respond back to you. I genuinely love what I do. And I'm being very intentional right now in how I'm able to help the corporate landscape, and really getting the opportunity to position myself to work with individuals within companies and within organizations to create that ripple effect that integrates into their culture, where it's a legacy. And it's not just like one-on-one coaching and it's a one-stop shop. It's something that truly is a legacy that's going to continue. And so, I'm always looking to partner with different organizations, different individuals, to just really help lead and dive into the human development of who they are as a true thought partner in it, and to help them on their path. Like, we're all on a journey. We all get sidetracked. And sometimes when you're sidetracked, it ends up being the best thing possible. So reach out, connect. I also, on my website, have a free leadership reset. So if people want to engage in that leadership reset and kind of get an understanding of, all right, she mentioned these values, her and TJ talked about these values. How do I find my values? It's free. It's a tool. It's there. I wanted to use my gift of curriculum to give people the opportunity to develop. I don't believe that it's only for C-suite executives. I believe it's for anyone that wants to emerge in whoever they are, personally, professionally, all of the above. So sidetrackedpath.com. Write me on Instagram @TiffyP or @sidetracked, and connect.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'll tag you in all the things. So people are going to, if they forget, or they're in the middle of listening and they didn't write it down, I'll make sure to share all that. And, I wanted to say, kind of as we wrap up, I just honestly wanted to say thank you for who you are, and for shining your light, and for responding when that match was lit, when that strike of the match in your life, but then also trying to help other people light their own. And that's what we're hoping for. That's what we do. That's why we show up in the way that we do. I appreciate you being in my life. I appreciate you being on this podcast with us and sharing yourself with the world. Again, this is just kind of the beginning, I think, of where this is going. We've talked about that as well. And but for also being your authentic self, and letting people see you and hear you, and being in this space with me. Again, it takes two to kind of create some space, and for us to show up the way that we have is something, again, like you've just alluded to, is the world needs more of it. And it can sometimes start with one conversation, and, we can be the ripple in each other's lives, and thinking, how can I help create more space for other people in my life? And it starts with the work that we do with ourselves, like you've already talked about too. So As we wrap up, I just want to say thank you. And everybody that's listening, even if you're thinking how powerful this was for you, and even if you're thinking, as Tiffany just talked about, how she helps her corporate clients and creates that ripple, don't ever underestimate your ability to create a ripple, because you can create the ripple by, one, sharing this, sharing her name, sharing it with somebody, but also, like you alluded to a couple different times, of which is also something I look forward to, and it's something that I'm passionate about. Let's make random acts of kindness not so random, and we can all make each other feel seen without needing something in return, because it's just who we are, and to show up for other people and allowing them to see us so that we can feel seen ourselves, kind of letting some of that guard down and recognizing when the guard's up. So go out in the world, show the world your gifts, give them away to other people. That random act of kindness, that hello, that good morning, that holding the door, that whatever that small moment may be, you may actually be the one thing that transforms somebody's life. And that's the gift. That's the power that we have with every day that we get. We don't know how many we have, but we always get to decide how we live them. So Tiffany, thank you for being on here and for being yourself and sharing your gifts with all of us.
Oh, thank you, TJ. I appreciate the space that you created for it. So thank you.